Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Monday, October 25th. I'm Blair Kirchhoff. A new low for the Chiefs? You never know, but Sunday's 27-3 non-competitive loss at the Tennessee Titans was one of the worst losses in Andy Reid's Chiefs era. The Chiefs were down 27-0 at one point, and they were held to their lowest point total since Reid took over in Kansas City in 2013. Also, quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who threw another interception and lost another fumble, had his streak of throwing a touchdown pass in 31 straight games come to an end. Star columnists Vahe, Gregorian, and Sam Mellinger and beat writers Sam McDowell and Herbie Teope discussed the problems on SportsBeat Live after the game, and now it's presented as a SportsBeat KC podcast. Let's get started. Hey, welcome to SportsBeat Live, Chiefs post-game edition. Glad you could be with us to vent over the Chiefs' 27-3 loss to the Tennessee Titans on Sunday in a game. I thought the Chiefs had several things going for them. Short week for the Titans, coming off an emotional victory, a longer injury list in the Chiefs, Chiefs getting back Chris Jones and Charvarius Ward. I just thought the Chiefs had a few things in their favor. If they did, it didn't show up here. So we're going to talk about this with you guys. Please send us your questions and comments. And folks like Herbie Teope, Sam McDowell, and Vahe Gregorian will answer the questions. And Sam Mellinger is going to be along here in a few minutes as well. So I don't know where to begin with this one, you guys. I know from a writing standpoint, it was a good game. You got to dig in pretty early in this one. But when we do that, it's usually the other way around, with the Chiefs having handled business and running away with things in the second half. This was a disaster, and maybe change the way we think about the Chiefs. But let's try to process this game. Vahe, let's start with you. How do we begin to process what happened today and what is one of the worst, probably the worst regular season loss in the Pat Mahomes era, and one of the worst losses for Andy Reid as Chiefs coach?
Well, let me turn it on you for a second, Blair. First, your report card headline, I think, said it all. Time for the parent-teacher conference. I also appreciated your Twitter send on this with the bad all over. Was that a bout of the Dave Clark 5 and glad all over? But look, here's the thing. I think a couple weeks ago, it seemed like a big thing that, oh, you could tell they're just not invincible anymore. Boy, that's gone. Now the question is, in a way, even a matter of competence. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on today in that first half that was really distressing. If before that pass to Travis Kelce near the end of the half, the Chiefs had more penalty yards than offensive yards, and the Titans had finished the half with 277. There was a time where I turned to Sam McDowell and said, I didn't think there was any reason to think the Chiefs were going to stop the Titans on those last couple of drives of the half, and that proved true. And that's the thing. When you look at that and you just say, I don't see how they're going to do it. That tells you that this is an SOS.
Yeah, and Sam Mellinger's joined us. Sam, you didn't pull any punches in the Insta. You teed him up and let him have it pretty good. I think the Chiefs deserve it. I think this today, if our feelings about the Chiefs didn't change after the Buffalo game, I think they have changed now based on what we saw today. I just don't know how you can look at them as a team that would stand among the best in the AFC.
No, I mean they've lost to everybody in the AFC, right? Except for the Browns. They win the game at the end there with that interception by Mike Hughes. Thanks in part to the pressure by Daniel Sorensen. Let's give him credit. But no, I mean they're just a mess. I mean they're an absolute mess. They continue to disappoint at every moment. Every time that you think they're going to have this like old champions, counterpunch or whatever, they just disappoint you again. I mean, this was just absolutely non-competitive. I think it's either starting in 2017, Andy Reid had one loss. If you throw out week 17 last year, since 2017, Andy Reid had one loss by more than a score, and he's got two in the last 3 weeks. I feel like something is fundamentally broken, and it's a group that just gets its ass kicked, and then comes in, and the first thing that Tyrann Mathieu does is search for his name on Twitter, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's the look of a team that's really going to get this back. You know what I mean? It's just they just keep stacking reasons to believe that this is gone, or at least that they don't know how to fix it.
And
Blair, I thought that the Buffalo game gave us pause that this team was what it has been. And today they stopped you in their track. I mean, that thought is completely gone. And I think that there's this alarming trend where there's sort of, this is probably reading too much into the situation, but to me, it feels like they're still trying to beat Tampa Bay with the way that they're playing. That game in February is still hanging over this team more than they want to admit. And especially with the quarterback. Patrick Mahomes played panicked today in spots where he didn't need to play panicked. He threw a ball to Josh Gordon that Josh Gordon was never open on the play and was truly shocked that the ball came his way. He ran for an extra, 18 inches to try, it cost him a fumble at the end of the half. And he even beat himself up on that play in post game. And I think he's leaving the pocket when he doesn't need to leave the pocket. There's a few examples out there on video where it's a pretty good pocket and he's leaving. And I just feel like he's got this battle that he's got to make more happen than what he needs to happen. And that's a result of the fact he did need to make more happen in the Tampa game, because that's what was around him. And I don't think he's in that spot now. But I think mentally he's still processing that.
Herbie, what was the worst thing you saw today?
Everything. I'm glad Melly took the gloves off, because all of us remember the 2012 season. And I really loved reading Melly's thoughts back in those days under the Scott Pioli time. But granted, it's not Scott Pioli level panic time, but the Chiefs team is definitely not who we thought they were. McDowell brings up the even this game, I didn't expect them to win this game. If you all remember Friday's show, I was like, no, they're not winning. I think the Titans are going to win it, because they don't have that air of invincibility anymore. This Chiefs team is well, you can scratch your head because of all the talent on it, but they're clearly not one of the league's elite, because, as Melly pointed out, they've lost to all the AFC elite. They've lost to the Ravens. They've lost to the Bills, and now they've lost to the Titans.
And they've got to play the Bengals, who beat the snot out of the Ravens today in Cincinnati later in the year. All right, there's a lot to pick apart for in this game. Started with the first possession, right? The Titans go down the field for the touchdown that Derrick Henry finishes with a pass. Not a Derrick Henry run, and we should mention, and we'll mention it later in the show, held to 86 yards and 3 yards per carry. And as Jason Collinsworth mentions, if you were to say Friday that the Chiefs were going to hold the Titans to under 30 points and under 100 yards rushing, you kind of like the Chiefs in that scenario, right? Absolutely, you would like the Chiefs in that scenario. But for them to give up scores on each of the Titans' 5 first-half possessions, first of all, Mike Vrabel is a heck of a coach. He schemed up a really good game plan. We've said it time and again, and we've seen it time and again. You keep Mahomes and this offense off the field. The Chiefs had one possession in the first quarter. Their second possession started with less than a minute to go in the first quarter, and by then they were down 14-0. So the defense was the problem in the first half. The offense was the problem throughout the entire game. And then there was that magical special teams moment late in the third quarter, I thought was kind of indicative and symbolic of the game, when the Chiefs ran the punt team on, then ran the field goal team on, and then called a timeout because they didn't know what they were doing. And then Butker, misses a 57-yard field goal that he should never have tried in the first place. So That was, maybe one of my highlights of the game. Let's dig a little deeper though into Patrick Mahomes. Sam McDowell, you said it. There's all kinds of problems here, right? Not just ball security on the fumbles. I think he's maybe dropping too deep. I think that's affecting the way the offensive line plays and what the offensive line can do. And he's panicking too quickly. This is not the mature beyond his years quarterback that we have seen in his first 3 years as a starter.
No, and it's not like they played the '85 Bears today.
Yes.
I mean, the Titans not only don't have a great secondary, it was a beat up secondary. I mean, this seemed prime for the opportunity for Mahomes to have his best day of the season. And he said that he was looking at the tablet on the sideline and seeing that guys were open, and those weren't the guys he was throwing to. And again, I just go back to it. The Chiefs had all these conversations in the offseason about the fact that they weren't going to be able to go for the home run all the time. And they had them publicly with all of us so often that we just all assumed that message was intended for the team as well. Eric Bieniemy said it before the season. Reid said it before the season. Mahomes said it before the season. And you just got the feeling that they were talking to the teammates through the media. And I wrote this in my story, but I'm starting to wonder if Mahomes was telling that to himself over and over again as well. Like he needed to be reminded of that as well, because he got into a bad place today where it seemed like he was looking off guys that were open maybe 3 yards downfield. And that just wasn't enough for him because they were down. Something that he mentioned that I thought was a telltale sign of this was when he said he finally acknowledged he was pressing, which we've all been talking about for weeks, that we feel like the quarterback's doing that because of the way the defense is playing. And he says it's not because of the way the defense is playing. But then he mentioned that they gave up an opening drive touchdown. And I thought that was an indicator that it is because of the way the defense is playing. We're down 7-0 already. We got to make something happen quick. And I just thought he got early into that mode, or I should say earlier than what he's been in past games. This I've got to make something happen. We can't not score on this drive.
We got a lot of people talking about the turnovers, but didn't the interception came first? But weren't they already down 17-0 when that happened, or was that did that lead to the field goal that made it 17-0?
14, I believe, but I could be remembering that wrong, but I think they were down 14-0 when he threw that. Okay.
Well, look, the turnovers are. I can't believe we're talking about them again. And the fumble, the interception, even McCole Hardman's fumble at the end of the game, inconsequential, but just careless, just very much carelessness on his part. So I believe. I don't think we can name a Chief that hasn't fumbled yet. So they got that going for him. All right.
Blair, if I can just interject this one thought, it's kind of interesting to Sam's point about Patrick acknowledging, how much it was in his mind that, okay, the Titans scored on the opening drive. So that's in his mind that way, but it's not in Andy Reid's mind enough to go for it on fourth down on that first drive. And it's sort of a minor point, but it seems to me to speak a little to not conflict, but just sort of disharmony in how they're feeling the game together.
And to be clear, Vahe, you're talking about the first drive of the second half.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Tell you what, I thought the offensive line had its worst game of the season. I don't think Mahomes helps his offensive line with some of the things that he does, but Trey Smith with his holding penalties and Orlando Brown, man, he got, how many times did he get beat? And I'll be looking forward to Sam Mellinger, when you break down the film of just, maybe how much of this is a product of Mahomes dropping back too much and changing the angle for an offensive line, for an offensive tackle. But Landry got in there, and I don't know how many times, not only did Mahomes get sacked multiple times, but he got his, almost got his head knocked off with the knee that took him out of the game, and got Chad Henne snaps for the first time this year. Herbie, I'm going to ask you about the offensive line, but you need to unplug your earphones and just talk right into the computer without anything plugged into your Just unplug it from your computer and talk into that and see if that'll work better. Just want to get your thoughts on the offensive line. Sorry. Oh, now unmute yourself.
Vahe, this has to be so comforting that it's not just you, right?
100%.
All right, Herbie. We'll come back to you, Herbie. We'll come back. Did you guys think the same thing?
Hello?
There you are. I got you now, Herbie.
So what was the question as I was going through technical difficulties? Vahe, you need to sit next to me.
Yeah, Chiefs weren't the only malfunctioning thing today.
Yeah, technology. You were talking about the offensive line.
Yeah. Go ahead, Herbie.
Yeah, and you're right, because Orlando Brown had issues. There was one play, Joe Tooney got beat on the inside. Trey Smith got beat a couple of times, penalized for holding, and then even Mike Remmers with the illegal hands to the face penalty. That set the team back. The only player who didn't get penalized from our vantage point, and also didn't do a lot of sacks, Creed Humphrey. That rookie center is a stud. But you're right. This offensive line. Good God, man, they had their issues today, and Sam brought the banged up secondary. The entire Titans defense is also banged up. So it's just inexplicable. I don't know how to explain what happened today. It's just I'm just stunned it did happen like this. I mean, I didn't think the Chiefs were going to win, but I also didn't think they would lose like this.
All right.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
Well, Melly, is this a new reality for the Chiefs now?
I don't know. I think that Patrick Mahomes of in part because shout out to Chiefs PR for bringing out Nick Bolton and Byron Pringle to explain this mess. But I thought Patrick Mahomes.
He's said it.
Yeah, I thought Mahomes came the closest. Just to giving an explanation about just sort of the level of distress or shock that's in that locker room, and his answer was basically. There's shock. Everything that they want, they can still go get, but it's still early in the season. And my thing is he's right. Everything that they want, they can still go get. He's wrong. It's not early in the season. Their next game is going to be in November. And Frank Clark has one fewer tackle than Marcus Kemp. And he has the same amount of sacks as everybody on this call. And this isn't just a Frank Clark problem. The offensive line, like you guys said, was terrible. They've had balls hit receivers and go for interceptions. They've had their unicorn quarterback making just some horrendous, terrible, backup quarterback mistakes. The defense can't tackle. They're getting no pass rush. They can't cover. I mean, it's a mess all over. And I guess what I was struck with today, as much as anything, is how big the gap is now between how the Chiefs see themselves and what they've shown themselves to be. You know what I mean? That is a big gap, because I still think that this group thinks that they're the swaggering, two-time AFC champions. And they're not. I mean, they've just gotten pants 2 out of 3 weeks now. And, they've just got some – I'm not here to say, coaches need to be fired or any of that stuff. But if this doesn't change, coaches are going to be fired, and that's the kind of situation that we're headed for unless they turn this around pretty quick.
Well, to what extent can coaching change this? Because I thought this was an ill-prepared team today. I don't remember the last time I thought that they didn't have a good offensive game plan. That they did a good enough job on Derrick Henry, but Ryan Tannehill completes his first 11. When they seem to get a stop, L'Jarius Sneed with the defensive pass interference, and Fenton got one as well, as I recall, and that for the second straight week, a screen pass on 3rd and long goes for a first down. Just all kinds of problems, and yeah, I look on the sidelines, or after they make a tackle on getting Henry down for a 3 or 4 yard gain on first down. There's a lot of chest thumping and just feeling good about the play. And next play is Tannehill completing another pass for a first down. And I don't deny a team the swagger, and some teams need that. I guess what confuses me is pretty much the same players that went to the Super Bowl a year ago are the ones that just look god awful today, and I'm having a hard time, rationalizing that how that can be. And I go back to coaching. Have there not been enough adjustments? Was there not enough? Did they think that what we ran with in 2020 would be good enough to get it done in 2021? I think the top of the AFC is proving that that it's not good enough. It's nowhere near good enough. I can't explain the turnovers. I can't explain how ridiculous this defense has played. Although, listen, I thought at times the defense did play okay today. The Willie Gay interception was good. This defense, you hold a team to 27 points, probably should win when you have a team like with the offense like the Chiefs. But this was a nothing went right game for them. And look, I think they get it back a little bit next week against the Giants. But will that be a little bit of fool's gold? I don't know. I'm just rambling on. It's just hard for me to understand what's going on with this team. And Melly, I agree with you. Insufficient answers from Andy Reid today, who sounded to me too upbeat about the way things went, and certainly not not enough explanation on why things are going the way they are.
I wondered in that post game, because I thought the same thing, because he essentially led with we're really close, and was hitting a lot of positives, and to me that was some old Bill Snyder. When they get blown out, he talks about the positives, and because Andy, when they're doing really well, he talks about, well, we got some things that we need to fix, and we know that and all that. I wonder how much of that was completely manufactured and intentional messaging from Andy, and or a meeting that he may have had with Ted Cruz or whoever else in Chiefs PR about, like, look, people are heated. Give them something positive, or I don't know, but it wasn't credible. You're not close. That was not close. And the last time you played a credible team, which certainly wasn't last week, but the week before with the Bills, that one wasn't close either.
He said something.
Go ahead, Sam.
Well, he said something that was really interesting in that opening statement. That I'm trying to find the exact quote. He said, "I'm seeing things that I haven't seen before." And so, first question out of the gate, I just asked him to elaborate on that to sort of decipher: do you mean the defenses are giving you stuff you haven't seen, or just from your own team? And I just said, "What do you mean by that?" And he gave another sort of confusing answer and said, "It's with the guys, just different guys that I've seen perform and not do certain things, that were right there to do the right thing and make something happen, and it's bouncing the other way." And he's basically saying, to me, my interpretation of that is some guys have been positioned to make certain plays that they're just not making for whatever reason. And he later said something that indicated that these are their core players, that these are guys that they've counted on for a long time now, who are suddenly not making plays that not just he's accustomed to seeing that, he's accustomed to seeing them consistently make to the point to where he says he's now seeing things that he's never seen before with them.
I wonder if that was about the quarterback.
I don't know. I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious your guys' interpretation of that too, because it was a weird quote with not a worthwhile explanation. I didn't think.
I heard the quarterback when he was saying that. That's what I heard, and maybe that's because that's what I think I see too, is a guy that has obviously performed, and he's doing things that we're not accustomed to seeing. And maybe Tyreek Hill's had some drops and whatever else. I mean, there's some other guys, but that's Chris Jones could be in that group. I don't know. That's what I heard.
Yeah, because I asked him later about the quarterback specifically, and he deflected that question and said, well, you're starting to make things happen, but we're all part of this. I've got to dial up better things and we'll go from there. And that was his answer about how Mahomes played today. And, take the first piece of it, because that's the only thing that's actually about Mahomes, and the question that's about Mahomes, which is trying to make things happen. And I think that's what we've talked about already on this call is we've seen a guy trying to make too much happen.
The one thing I was kind of struck by, and it goes back to whichever one of you guys said that about, like, Bill Snyder trying to, sort of tell the team they're close. The wording struck me as the sort of thing you try to tell when you're trying to build a team up from being in the depths. Like, we're getting close. It just struck me as a bit of a disconnect also between what we're plainly looking at here. And I think, I don't know what it's like in those minutes when Andy first gets in the locker room, but we've certainly noticed a trend lately where it's taken longer and longer for him to come into the post-game media session. And today, I feel like it probably was to calm down. I feel like there's, at least I hope this is true, that there's a much more blunt and meaningful message in that locker room than what they're giving us, and by extension to the fans.
And that's a fantastic point, Vahe. This is the absence of the locker room. We are not able to properly gauge how the team is feeling right now. When Melly points out props to Chief PR for this Nick Bolton and Byron Pringle, they're not the voice of the locker room. We got to get in there and see how everybody's feeling, and we're not able to tell how this team is reacting to these losses because that's controlled, so to speak. And that's a good point, Vahe.
I remember last time we were in Tennessee to that point, that Melly had said, we always kind of decipher what we're going to write. And Melly had said, I'm just going to write the room. And like those days are gone. But in Tennessee last time, we walk into the room and Damian Williams is literally crying, sitting at his locker, just staring straight forward. And it was like, first of all, what a good day to just say, I'm just going to write the room. But that's the sort of emotion that is gone that you'd like to see from, the people who we do speak to. And I actually did think Mahomes raised his hand, but not just in the leadership way. He was pretty specific, more than he has been, about certain things that he's done wrong. But we didn't hear a lot of that from Andy today.
The last thing Andy said was, I trust the locker room. I trust the players. I trust the coaches. That was right before he said that. He said, and as you guys were saying, we're just like a fingertip away on a few things. A fingertip away. I'm thinking, no, you're not.
Fingertips aren't that big, man.
Oh, come on. Yeah, a very good point, you guys. It would be great to go to that locker room and to talk to the players after the game. We all miss that opportunity, and you can tell a lot about a team, how it feels, what it's feeling, and what the mood is by being there. That is not available to us. Listen, you said they did bring Bolton and Pringle to the post-game podium, and the reason they did that was because Pringle had a really nice catch on fourth down, probably had an overall good game, and Nick Bolton had 15 tackles. I thought he played hard and did as good a job of kind of fearless. I thought he played fearless, and believe he had the green dot. Didn't he have the green dot today, Herbie? He and Ben Neiman. So
Bolton called the plays today.
So look, that's good. A big kind of a big game for him, but yeah, there's just no you're not gonna get what fans want to know, which is where the communication is lost. We're not able to tell the fans what we'd like to tell them about what we see and hear and what we think about what's going on in the locker room. So, all right, guys, a lot of great comments here today. Let's go to a couple of them before we get out of here. A lot of people think, look, defense outplayed the offense today. I guess that's true. I mean, again, I'll go back to say I thought the offense was bad the entire game, maybe for the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era. Defense did play okay in the second half. I never at any point thought the Chiefs were going to get back in the game. And when it was 27-3, I didn't think the Chiefs were going to get back in the game. So.
And Blair, just to add to that, when you give up a 75-yard drive and a 97-yard drive on the first two drives of the game, I don't. That sets the tone for the game. The dynamics are in place for the game there. I mean, defense had some better moments, but you can't do that. I mean, it's that's where the game was lost right away.
Even to get even more specific and in the weeds on that, Blair, you mentioned it, but that 3rd and 9 screen pass that goes for 10 yards, like that is the exact type of play that caused Tyrann Mathieu's eruption last week in Washington. Those are the plays that can't happen, especially when you're on 4. You've got less room to operate. You're more nervous. I mean, your playbook shrinks there. So, Vahe says the drive set the tone for the game, and I agree. But that play specifically, I think, set the tone for that drive, which in turn, changes the game.
The other thing that confuses me, look, everything confuses me, but specifically to the Chiefs, the inability to go long. We understand that defenses are playing too deep, safeties, but where's the underneath stuff? Are they being defended so well in both cases that there is just not opportunity to take what's available? Is this part of the Patrick Mahomes an offensive issue?
Yeah, I think it is there. And that's what Patrick Mahomes was kind of saying today, is that when he goes back and looks on the tablet, he sees that guys are open and he's not throwing to them. I thought that the Chiefs didn't run very much long stuff today. Tennessee is one of the best press box views that we have. And I just didn't see a lot of routes that, the Chiefs were running deep. I thought they ran a lot of short stuff today. And I just think the quarterback got impatient with that. I don't think he's a guy that likes to throw short all the time. But you mentioned it with the way teams are defending him. Mahomes also said that Tennessee did not show him anything today that they did not play against the Bills last week. So this is the defense they expected. It's not about some sort of surprise scheme that they had to adjust to. These were the plays that they had specifically designed to face these guys
and
today.
What's even a half a level or maybe 2 levels more concerning than that is, like, if this is the defense that they expected to see today with personnel that's inferior to what they will see most of the rest of the season. And I'm thinking specifically about the secondary. Those guys are just beat up. This was not Tennessee's best secondary. They've just been ravaged with injuries back there. And I just, that part of it is shocking. Like, I wasn't going to be shocked if the Chiefs lost this game, but I thought they'd score a ton of points either way. And the inability to do that is really troubling.
And getting there with a 4-man rush too often, not needing to bring extras to get pressure on Mahomes. That's distressing. And that just circles back to the game that the offensive line played. We've already covered that ground. So, all right, going to be an interesting week for the Chiefs. They've got a lot of splaining to do this week. We'll see. We'll see if we get those explanations a day later, because they play on Monday night against the New York Giants. We'll hear from Andy Reid tomorrow, but we'll not hear from the Chiefs this week starting until Thursday. I believe that's how it worked. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday instead of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So, but we'll be coming at you Friday morning at our usual time, 9:30 in the morning. I hope you will join us then. I hope Sam, Vahe, Sam, and Herbie will join us then as well. I know Beth Welsh will be there, our producer. So, listen, thanks everybody for your questions and comments. A lot of good stuff here today. And read all about this game in the Kansas City Star, kansascity.com. Best coverage in Kansas City. Until Friday morning, Thank you, and we'll see you later.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, and Chris Fickett. Tip of the cap to Herbie Teope, Sam McDowell, Sam Mellinger, and Vahe Gregorian for Talking Chiefs. Links to stories about the Chiefs can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. So let's talk about the morning sports edition. If you're not already getting this, you're really missing out. On kansascity.com, you go to the Stars e-edition. That's a replica of the printed newspaper on your screen that comes with your digital subscription. Well, now there's an updated sports section produced separately that goes along with it. When you open the e-edition, there's a box in the upper right-hand corner that says All Editions. Click on that, and you can access about 20 to 50, maybe sometimes 60 pages of sports. Maybe you get a link in your email. That's how I get it. It's there by about 6 in the morning every day. Either way, it's access to complete coverage of the previous day's sports news, features, statistics, everything. It's fantastic. You'll get all the NFL scores, game stories. You get all the baseball playoff stuff, all the college football stuff. It's great. All right. Thanks for reading and listening to our podcast lineup. You're helping support the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City, and we could not produce programs like SportsBeat KC without you. We'll be back on Tuesday with another episode.